this note, I will be bringing Adamu Jauro Garba II, the founder and the group CEO of IPI Group. So is Adamu in this room now?
Yes.
Okay. So can you please grant Adamu the floor if Adamu is here?
Let me. If Adamu can raise up his hand, then we can easily find him. But I saw his name.
Okay. Everyone raising up hand. I have lowered all the hands. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Adamu, yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to participate in the conference. In fact, one of the most extrapolative one I had from the Alhaji Tom Koyakasai, who is our foremost statesman in the North, who has always been known to say his mind, no matter whose oars are good. You know, you can see the way he's talking. And that is very interesting perspective. And who, of course, based on what he said and his contribution to the conference, I will want to support so many things he said, especially regarding the opportunity in terms of crisis. He traced the history of global order back and forth, you know. Crisis, based on the topic of the discussion anyway, crisis is actually an important opportunity for strong nations. In some cases, it's even orchestrated to make sure that order has changed from the bad ones to the good ones, or the more conformable ones to the recent norm. Of course, if you check the history of even first industrial revolution, you will see that they have a plague which killed so many of the farmers, and in turn, the British is trying to look for how can we create a system that will allow a machine to run these operations, where otherwise I will need more slave labor. And there we have a first industrial revolution, and even the crisis of course, First World War between 1914, 1918, and of course the Spanish flu, which culminated into rise of Germany, and then condemned by 1945 after the Second World War. And then we create a global order from 1945 till today that have given unprecedented amount of growth to the entire global economy, such that have never been seen for the past 75 years now. So strong people or strong nation take crisis as an opportunity to reshape system to be able to be more conformable to the modern demand. If you look at Nigeria today as a case study, you will see, as many of the speakers have pointed out, that the center is so much concentrated. Almost everything is coming from the center. In fact, from the power equation law, you will see that Nigeria is having almost 85% of the power concentrated at the center. And the center, one of the biggest problems it has is that it's heavily subsidizing. Everything is just subsidized from the center. Like the civil service is overbloated. This is a country that have less than $30 billion a budget per annum, with about 4 million civil servants. Almost 70% of the money goes to salaries and emolument. So you wonder, what money do we have to even channel on the part of development? The most consuming commodity of which we import is oil. And we export crude oil and then export it in form of fuel to sell. We subsidize that. We struggle to get dollars to be able to power investment. We subsidize that because we peg the dollar at a certain exchange rate value as a measure of naira. And of course, we have series of security problems that the center cannot be able to hold alone. So these are serious challenges that needed to be addressed deeply. And of course, we have never had an opportunity to do so in the history of this country since Civil War than now. But unfortunately, you know the way the system works in Nigeria. But I want to commend two strategic efforts done by the government in this. I had the Minister of Finance talking about the medium-term expenditure framework, where she rightly said that the exchange rate that was used to measure the budget going forward is 360 naira, clearly trying to show that we are liberalizing the dollar, you know, away from the normal issues that it has. And at the same time, also, some of the Abacha loot that were patriated, the welfareists were saying that the government should distribute to the people in terms of palliatives. But the government decided to say they are going to channel it to actually infrastructure investment, where the dollar is much needed to be able to empower. So when you look at all those things, you will see that we have a very serious opportunity to change. And at the same time, the entire country is at home, sitting, and the parliament are in a panic mode. So when there is a genuine desire to make efficient change into the system, there has never been a better time than now. To the best of my knowledge, of course, the system, as rightly said by the elder statesman, we have a huge military hangover over a long period of time. And the system we inherited was designed completely by the military. And everything that is being run is actually done in a military-style democratic system. So therefore, when we continue to have this kind of setting, it will be a very big problem. And at the same time, when we continue to hammer on this very big or hyperbolic political term called restructuring, we are not going to go anywhere, because somehow there is deep level of mistrust about the word restructuring. And that is why you see the elder statesman is asking questions like, can we have specific details about how this restructuring can be done? So if we continue to debate between do restructuring and don't do restructuring, we may not move forward. The best solution here is to begin to act quickly by inject the necessary mechanism within the country's governance system to transform it back to productivity, as opposed to the consumption-driven welfare state that we have today. Like, I can give you, for example now, I mentioned to you that the civil service is very high at the center. Everything is consumed from the center. The governors come to Abuja to collect from the center. Local government come to Abuja to collect from the center. The president is waiting for oil to be able to power its own budget. So when we continue this way, there is a very serious problem. But we have a short hangover that we can adapt, that can easily be able to scale through the constitutional demand or the parliamentary demand, and then get us back to work and also get the country back to productivity. For instance, there is no reason why like federal government will focus on something that has to do with many things regarding like implementation of healthcare services or implementation of educational services or even security. So instead of us to say we are going a whole big basket of restructuring as a component, why don't we just pick it into pieces and start maybe by decentralizing security, which is one of the biggest problems we have in the country? Why do we have policing at the center? Why can't we have a state policing system? Why don't we divide the police into two, where we have the federal police and the state police like we have in so many countries, especially United States? Why don't we put the state police under criminal justice system and allow them to run under judiciary, so that you can be able to track down and monitor how they carry out their responsibility in state, and then they will be answerable to the federal judicial institutions. So if you do that quickly, this is something that can get passed by the law, and this is something that the president has approved, that we can be able to have some level of security at the center, which is that some level of security at the local state level. So these are the things that we need to quickly be able to push and then be able to harness and transform the country back to more protected zones, as opposed to the way it is now. Almost every state have a security challenge. And at the same time, you can be able to push healthcare and education down to local government level, because that is where it is needed. The center can focus on regulation, monitoring, evaluation, and then release of necessary guidelines for proper implementation. But the center cannot implement. The center as it is today is very difficult for it to be able to secure the entire country. The center is very difficult for the center to administer an efficient, non-biased agricultural programs without having a partnership with the states and the local government, and then get these resources distributed through states and the local government in the most efficient manner. So if we continue this way in a more graduated, hybridized way, we will get the restructuring done in no time than to even be hammering and be talking into the level where it's creating polarization and of course, and it's being politicized. It's a fantastic proposal to restructure this country. I can tell you, I am in the north. I am currently sitting in Adamu Jauro state, my home state. And I can tell you that this country cannot really continue to work the way it is today. Now, but people need to understand deeply how these things can be done. While this water has been corrupted or maybe somehow politicized, what can we do quickly to get these things done? Now that we are in a crisis mode, now that as a snap of the finger, the president can have both the two parliamentary heads in his desk and then get something done. Now that Nigerians can be able to get so many things that we needed to be done to be able to address most of our seeming challenges. So we have challenges in the country. We have a crisis situation that's supposed to flatten our economy completely so that we can kickstart it back to productivity. But unfortunately, there are so many directions that we've taken so far. Of course, with the heavy hangover that I said earlier on the military side, and also the heavily politicized, patronizing environment of our Nigerian political settings, it's very difficult for us to get these things done. As rightly said by the elder statesman, he also mentioned that you have people contesting for political offices simply because they want to go and make money. Sincerely, that is what is happening in Nigeria. What is happening in the country is about sharing the pie. Who the biggest contributor during your political journey, the bigger the pie he gets when he gets percent. The whole struggle is around who controls NMP and who controls CBN, so that you can have as much dollars and you can have as much oil exported. So those guys are comfortable with that level and what they do. And it's very, very difficult for us to continue to make them see the need for change in the system if we did not participate deeply into the system. The problem we have, particularly with the younger generation, as opposed to the generation of the respected elder statesman, is that we refuse to take political participation as an active duty as citizens that are supposed to change the status quo. We always take a backseat and either expect them to do it for us, or we point fingers at them that they are not doing the right thing. Meanwhile, we don't actually participate. I can give you a clear example. I participated in the last election. I came out and contested for the presidency under APC, during the 2019 election. I was the only contender with President Muhammadu Buhari as an aspirant, but unfortunately, even the youths within the party are against their own fellow new face. Now, if you go back throughout the country, I almost become a lone ranger, despite the fact that I am clamoring for a complete unbundling the system and transforming it back to productivity. But the youths seems to develop some level of pessimism with the system, while some devalue themselves and felt like they are too inferior to occupy the political offices. And this has created a huge blocker that we find ourselves in this situation today. So as much as we want to blame the system, as much as we want to blame the people governing us, and as much as we want to also be pointing at the Constitution as the ultimate alpha and omega for fixing Nigeria, we will not abscond ourselves from blame, because that is actually where the biggest problem is coming from. The right people are not in the system. You do not expect to have any change within the system, except if you are comfortable protesting and talking all the time. So what I would want to say here in the conference is, I think it is important for fine people that I see here, very, very intelligent people, very well informed, widely traveled, exposed, to start looking at the possibility of active participation in governing this country. Not just by talking or insisting that it should be done, but by actively participating in the political process and political development in Nigeria, with the view of trying to influence its own outcome. Because that's actually where we have the problem. This country is not working for the North. Not just anywhere, not just the South or the East. It's not even working for the North. Just very few people benefit from the system. Very, very few people. I traveled to Mubi. I have a bakery chain, so I set up a branch in Mubi, one local government here in Adamu State, 200 kilometers away from the state capital. I traveled on a very bad road, and that's the commercial center of Adamu State. And that is actually even neighboring Cameroon, a border town. But you need to see the road to pass to that place. So dilapidated and so completely abandoned by the federal government, and it's on the federal government road. And when you talk to the governor, because I spoke with the governor told me that is a federal road. We do not have jurisdiction over federal road. So you can imagine this kind of job. Now, this is an infrastructure that's supposed to enable productivity of the local state. But you are waiting for one minister of infrastructure sitting somewhere who does not even understand what is happening here to fix it for you. So that cannot work. So it's not about like nobody wants or don't want the restructuring. No, it's about the need for us to come into the system and try to make people see the reason why these things should be implemented. You have vast amount of agricultural land that is just thrown out there. You see one big man having like maybe 200 acres of those land and sitting empty. Nobody dares go inside to farm in those places. And then the same people in the locality travel to some other places to be able to feed themselves when they can be able to use this land. So we have so much problem in the system that if we continue to favor the center, like the power at the center as the main way to solve this problem, we will continue to satisfy the ego of our retired military officers to continue to rule us while we mortgage the future of ourselves, our children, and great-grandchildren. And this is actually where the problem is. The problem we have in Nigeria is not just systematic issue, it's also a generational participation issue. Most of the people that are leading this country are supposed not to be there at all, partly due to the extinction of their idea in the way statecraft model is being run, and partly because the main intention of them participating in the system is what they can extract as a value for their own selves, their families, and their pockets. So if we continue, if you truly want a genuine, progressive, developed, a model Nigeria that is going to be a kind of a country that will serve as a platform for the evaluation, emancipation, and the greater rise for the entire black race on earth, we that understand the meaning and the values of these things need to be at the center of taking decisions for the benefit of everyone. This is a federation state. You do not expect power to come from one person taking final decision on 200 million people in one shabbily packaged constitution, and then we now say that we have a country. To the best of my knowledge, I think if we continue that way, it's not going to work. And as I can tell you, I told you this, it's not working for everybody. It's not working for the North. The North is greatly impoverished. And what impoverished the North is partly because of this problem, not really because of maybe the current structure is favoring the North. The current structure, in fact, don't favor the North even. I think we are most at the disadvantage from the northern side of this country than the southwest and the southeastern part of this country currently. You may not have political participation, but I'm telling you, when it comes to distribution of resources and allocation of right policy that will enable people to be able to function at their full capacity or to realize their full potential, we are the greatest disadvantage here. So restructuring is actually a very good model, but if we continue to talk it, because as I'm talking to you, the word is heavily politicized. And if we continue to be waiting for restructuring to get Nigeria back to productivity, to get Nigeria where we want it to be, we will just be wasting time. The best thing we need to do is to look into where we are and how can we strategically, silently, and implementing these things state by state way, whereby we decentralize security first. Well, after decentralizing security, then we now begin to, we hold the center, the fiscal policy, the dollar naira policy, the crude oil policy, and all the undersurface items like the gold, the silver, the diamond, and all those kind of things are now channeled towards capacity development of the brain of Nigerians so that we can have good human capital that can be able to start thinking deeper and creating industries out of these resources that we have. Then we will always be having problems. While at the center, at the state level, we can begin to have some level of resource control. Not completely at the same time. You have to graduate the process. You start by the smallest amount of resources in a graduated way to the highest amount of resources. That is exactly how we do. While we grow by decentralizing the system from one side, we also transform the country from consumption and unproductive system to production and a more value-driven system. So that's exactly what I believe we need to look at in this country. That is another last point I want to mention again, which is a reputation, is that we in this conference have to begin to look at active ways of participating actively into the political activities with the view of trying to influence its own outcome to the benefit of Nigerians. As the elder statesman said, we have nowhere to go. Moving back to 1963 constitution might be a fantastic idea, but to me it's a reverse. I think now the world has moved into 21st century, and if you look at what we are having, we used to have globalization 1945 to 2015. Now we have glocalization. So, and coronavirus have pushed people to create their own boundaries, and most states are now becoming nationalistic. And the supply chain model of what connects different nodes in from one country to the other is actually the economic channel, not the political channel. Today in the world, we don't have one country that is pushing for a certain political ideology of other countries. You know what President Trump is doing. America has been the leading nation pushing for political and economic reform. Now their basic care is economic reform, to me, which is fantastic. It has given off some level of political liberalization to define the system that work for Nigeria with little or no foreign interference at all. And if there is any interest that is governing the process of delaying us from implementing the right policy that is going to bring us back to productivity, then coronavirus have presented us with this opportunity. Because most state actors today are focusing on their own countries. Nobody cares about global action no more, except on tackling coronavirus. When it comes to policy implementation, the entire world is in emergency mode. Each country should do what it thinks is best to be able to stay afloat and continue to function and prosper with the prevailing crisis. So what we need to do is to take advantage of this window of opportunity where we have less political interference, less global interference, and at the same time, less dollar material consumption, because that's where we have the problem. Most of the dollar we get in this country when we sell all the items that require dollar, we ended up using that same resources to be able to import some luxury items in this country, as opposed to channeling them to build infrastructure. So we don't have that. So what we need to do is that we can define a new policy around investing dollar. Central bank, I really wish Professor Mogalu is here. Central bank will have to come in and serve as an investment banking system for powering the infrastructure of Nigeria, as opposed to what it is today, as just, to me, not more than a subsidy giving an institution. Central bank give farmers certain amount of money. Central bank has given this certain amount of money. Money is just going into the economy, and in most cases, those monies are going into the consumption, not the production side of the economy. Or even if they are channeled or they are meant to go through the production part of the economy, they ended up getting to the consumption side, whereby the money goes in and it disappears. So we need to make sure that we have a policy of all the dollars that come into the country. Since we need electricity, we need rail network, we need good road network, we need good bridges, which is infrastructure. Since we need all those things to be available for us to be able to have a functioning, connected economy in the country, we will have to make a deliberate policy that will ensure that all the dollars coming into these countries are channeled towards building this necessary infrastructure. Meanwhile, for the local economy to thrive, now that we do not have direct connection with the external economies due to the global pandemic, we can use Naira. We thank God that our currency is Naira, not like Francophone countries. So we can still use Naira. We can adapt principles such as quantitative easing to be able to kickstart the local economy and enable consumption production within the economy using Naira. So Naira can help us to kickstart the production side of the economy, since people now have no option than to patronize Naira. And from that Naira, people can now begin to buy using Naira, sell using Naira, produce using Naira, while we have less global interference from the international system. That is an opportunity that I have seen that is presented by coronavirus. But unfortunately, we are so, like, sometimes we are so overtaken by the negative side of the negative publicity than otherwise the positive side of it. And of course, I'm sure most of us know that one of the philosophical inclination to change is actually follow three clear actions. One, if you want to change a society, you have to inject fear. You know, if fear doesn't work, you have to inject greed. Then you have to use curiosity. It is believed that people work faster when they are afraid. They adopt to new things faster when they are afraid. Not that everybody is asked to put face masks and stay at home and wash your hands and just pray to God. It means that this man or this woman that are staying at home washing their hands and putting face masks, if you tell them that, guys, this is the right way, we have no option to get out of this situation than this way, everyone will fall in line. And if there's a genuine, committed, and deliberate leadership to fix things up, then we have opportunity to really do that now that people are actually waiting and looking forward to a better way forward for the country. Thank you very much. Let me not take much time. I'm seeing that this is about 55. Let me wait for questions.
So thank you very much, Gaba, for that wonderful presentation. And I remain Maziz okay here. So, in summary, obviously, what you've said is, I'll put them in three planks. One is the unbundling of the exclusive list. Second is active participation, and lastly, that you know the states will be given the opportunity to deal on those things that they ought to do. My question, before I allow others to do is to ask their question, is very simple. I am a proponent of unbundling the exclusive list, moving some items into the concurrent list in order to ease the federal government or to ease the thought. Now, there is a challenge in as much as I believe that is the right thing to do, but somehow within at the back of my mind, something bothers me a lot. And that is the states, as we have it today, appear incapable to manage the ones they have. Now, talk less of, moving further. When you talk about the road, the movie, I mean, I've lived in Jamaica, I've lived in Europe, so it's part of my area. I understand this road you talk about. The question is, even within Adamawa itself, there are local roads yet undone. And the governor would always tell you, oh, this road, the reason why the road is like this is because it's a federal road. There are roads he should do. He hasn't done it. These are roads that can ease, in the farming communities. They can use those roads to bring food out, yet they haven't done it. Now, the question there to you is it that we know the right things to do and not doing it, or that we are just blaming the structure to be part of the reason why we are not getting it right?
Thank you very much for this question, but if I may answer you here, I want to believe that the system is heavily politicized. Every structure in Nigeria, every single decision is taken with political interest, not economic interest. And that political interest is for the highest bidder, not the people at the base of the pyramid. Now, if you give enough resources, like in terms of policy making, it will automatically, of course, this is an evolutionary process. It starts from point A to point B before you get the right thing done. The current political leaders might not do the right thing, but the subsequent ones, people will have reason to question the competency of their state executive. And when they begin to do that, they will begin to also listen to innovative ideas presented by the next contenders. And along the line, they may tilt towards those ones that are giving them more unique solution to their immediate problem that is connected to their immediate environment than to wait for one political godfather in Abuja who endorses certain candidate. Because the problem we have now is certain people will just sit down in certain office and then pick one person and say they issue him a ticket. So if you are contesting, no matter how much amount of money you say you want to use to contest, provided that godfather did not endorse you, you can't do nothing. And unfortunately, this godfather is waiting for returns. So you can't do what he did not authorize you to do so, because you are trying to outshine certain principle for which he is to remain relevant as a godfather. Some of these governors, not that they don't really want to fix those roads, they actually do want to. But the problem is that it is outside the jurisdiction for which they have agreed with the godfathers endorsing them. And if they mistakenly bypass these godfathers to go and do this implementation, they will face problems, with their godfathers, and the godfathers may push them out of the party, and they may not get another platform that can be able to give them opportunity to do the right thing. So if we disincentivize that office by giving it a lot of opportunity to think and innovate and create solutions, and that it will be held accountable completely for lack of creating these solutions, then we're giving opportunity for people with the solution to come into play. That's actually what I think. So, but current structure does not allow that incentive or that disincentivization of going to Abuja to collect money. The incentive created is just for you to go to Abuja and collect money, but there is no incentive for you to be innovative to stay relevant on that seat. All you need to do is to be a loyal boy and loyal man who listens to orders, who carry instructions, who do as he's told, and then you are there as a governor. And that is why we are having this complete decentralized or complete confusion at the local level of governance. So if we now put a lot of responsibility on those states using policy from the center and then make them accountable for delivering these public goods, and then ask the state, the people within the same locality to question their incapability to deliver efficiently, then those same people will begin to look for real people that can deliver. And that's why I think doing that is going to help.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to bring Uchechukwu Eze. While Uchechukwu is asking his question,
Uchechukwu asked question before.
Alabado Oseni, please get ready. Uchechukwu, you have the floor. Can you unmute yourself? Somehow you've... Go ahead, okay. Uchechukwu. Go ahead.
Adamu, it's really interesting to hear you, saying all these things. This is what many people, including me, have been clamoring for to hear. But you mentioned something about of which that's what everybody in Nigeria and all over the world, we Nigerians are clamoring for, like safety, which is the most important thing in Nigeria today. For the state to function in terms of managing their security, they need changing the. I'm not about sharing formula. I mean, the valuation of power that the state can keep to the federal. Without that, the state can never manage their security because it takes a lot to sponsor or manage police and other things. Because if you take Lagos, for example, Lagos is the only state in Nigeria that can sponsor equipment, cars, and other things. Whereby other states like Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, who has a lot of resources, but because they're getting the same percentage as some, for example, some states in the north that produce much less, let's say, putting much less income to the federal government. So without this development of power in terms of resource control, they cannot manage that. Okay. So what do you think should be way forward for the state to go on? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Uche. I want to tell you that, of course, there is this 13% derivation that is going to Niger Delta and oil-producing state, in addition to the normal revenue that is evenly distributed. But be that as it may, this is another side. The devolution of power, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, was that we should consider decentralizing security first. Because as I'm talking to you now, there is this not too formal measures of state governors being asked to create vigilantes and even sponsor them to be able to provide protection to their own communities, to their own states. It means we're gradually evolving towards this direction. And before you can come to resource control, because the ideology of the people in power today mostly is that we get to the center, we get money. So it's greed that is driving their political contest, not actually public good. Not all of them, but most of them. Now, if you attempt to say you want to cut off that part of the that part of the margin within the restructuring model, you are causing trouble because most of them will file you to the end. But you can start by decentralizing security. They don't see it as a very big problem. In fact, they see this as provision of solution to their own immediate problem because they are failing in meeting their political promises due to the security ravaging many different parts of the country. So if we can look into this as an opportunity to back it up with certain law allow these black uniform police people to operate at the state level under a commissioner of police. Meanwhile, the policing system should not be accountable to the state governor, but should be accountable to the federal judicial system as a judicial, because citizens police, of course, naturally is a criminal justice system. So it should be part of the federal judicial system. So the excesses that they may otherwise commit, they will now answer to the federal judges, not state judges. This will now disconnect direct accountability from the state government. But the implementation of the security apparatus should now come from the state government. Powering them, like giving them, of course, their salaries and emolument should come from the state government. If you look at, you mentioned Lagos State, if you look at the amount of money the police trust fund in Lagos is generating, it's enough to have, Lagos is enough to have its own police. And most states can create this kind of innovative ideas to be able to have policing. In fact, even before we have the federal police system with the military, we used to have this local policing system that has been efficient and it's been working. So all we need to do is secure the country first by allowing the state to manage the implementation of security framework relative to the requirement of their own states, while the police excesses will now be checked by federal judges. Then, if you give that opportunity, part of the money that you spend at the federal level for police, put it as part of the distribution that goes to, so that the state government can now take responsibility for now paying and taking care of the welfare of these policemen. Then you can now have another federal policing system, like, sorry, I think my light went off, but they are starting to generate. Now you can now have a federal police. Yes, you know, Nigeria, you know. So I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, you are hearing you.
Yeah, that's very good. So we can now have again a federal policing system, like we have MOPOL, we call them mobile police. The mobile police can now act as a federal police system. We have the DSS. The DSS can now also join the team of the federal police system. These federal police systems can now be available and be deployable to any other federal jurisdiction that require federal deployment of local civilian police system. So when you structure it this way, you will not have a whole lot of problem at the center where there is crisis today in Katsina, and you are waiting for the federal government to give direct order to the IG, one man, the president, you know, to still give order to the IG to go and handle one problem in one remote village in Katsina. It's not possible because the governor in Katsina is very close there. He is connected to the traditional rulers in that state. He is also connected to the local government chairman in those states, including the local ward chairman, so they can understand the flashpoint easily and be able to tackle it. Once we have security devolve, there will be more demand from the center to the federating unit. It's a natural order. There is no president that will come to the center and will not want to attend to these demands of the federating unit. It means the resources will now begin to naturally devolve from the center to the federating unit in a natural order where nobody will even feel the brunt of it, because lack of doing so, as a president, you are losing power. If there's any challenge in the state and you refuse to commit a certain amount of resources to fix those challenges, all the blames will now point to you. Eventually, you will come to discover that the federal government will focus on its two principal natural interests, because any federal government in a democratic setting should pay attention to two things: macroeconomics and foreign policy. Those are the only things that you expect president to pay attention to, because the president is just like the dignity, the corporate brand of that country. So the corporate brand is the virtual currency that brings your social currency between country A and country B, and at the same time also give assurances of your of the country's well-governed system. You know, and that well-governance should not be implemented, should not be visible at the state level. So if you provide security, which everybody is disposed to it, you don't call it restructuring, you just call it maybe a certain name. You now go to National Assembly, you now endorse it with the policy and divide the police into federal and state policing system and allow the state to take charge of their own. You now handle the federal side of the security model. I am telling you that once that started happening, the resources will begin to devolve. Pressure at the center will not withstand. And the president will naturally begin to tell the state, fend for yourself from your local states. We cannot be able to be giving you every, look around you. What mineral resources do you have? How can you leverage on these mineral resources to be able to deliver your own security and deliver your own infrastructure and give better healthcare and better education to your people. I am too busy. Let me focus on macroeconomics so that I can fix my market properly, and then also foreign policy so that the image of the country will now be respected and also will be valued.
Yep.
That is what I believe should be done.
So thank you, Adamu. See, the thing here is we are talking about restructuring, and suddenly one of those items in power generation,
yes,
that is a key element, just struck. NEPA or power holdings just withdrew your power in front of everyone in the world. So basically, it's a clear indication that the nation is overdue to restructure. It is a clear case of insanity that certain states will generate power, but they cannot use the power. They have to push that power to national grid. To national grid that has no capacity to even bring down this power again, to transmit this power to various households or to various regions. On this note, I will be calling on Otumba Ola Bode to now ask your question. Otumba Ola Bode, go on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I have about 3 questions, but I just want the Honorable Adamu to take note. I want to talk about rule of law. It saddens me when people start talking about the country should break and all this kind of thing, because when you look at the products like Honorable Adamu, I don't want to even know his constituency. A Nigerian like him, can you imagine the kind of a presentation which will be more applauded in America or some other civilized countries? So, and we have them in thousands in Nigeria, and I think all what he has been saying will probably still not go to work, and I'll tell him why. Why? Because as long as we do not have rule of law in place, the solution to Nigerian problem is in 774 local governments. If we devolve power to 774 local governments or more, I don't know how many of them, they will be able to start operating like the boroughs or like the counties in other civilized countries. 60 years on, we're still struggling to fix ordinary power. I call it ordinary power because I don't know how much more do we need to spend on energy. Without energy, we're not going to develop the country. We have no water, we have no roads, we have nothing. And for me, the question I want to ask Honorable Adamu is, if we are to agree, as we are all sitting down here today, that's okay. Let us start with a very loose federalism. Let's every part of the country, especially in the area of the local government, also start fixing their problem. The federal should not be so empowered as Professor Nwabuse, Kayo, and all these people who center power in the central. We are not getting any profit from it. We are not getting anything from it. So here is a brilliant Nigerian who knows what is saying, but unfortunately, to translate what he's saying to what he wants to do is just not going to work until when we have rule of law, we reconnect all the tenets of rule of law in the country. And it's very easy. All what we need to do is agree that if we say what is good for Ghana is going to be good for Goose, what we do is going to be, you're not going to get a ticket on highway, Ilorin highway, and start looking for Honorable Adamu because you know him. I've been living in Europe for 50 years. There's certain things I cannot do. Yes, I still find that some of my rights are restricted, but at least I still benefit from it. So, Honorable Adamu, are you willing to subscribe? I see you as one of the 16 sheriffs that fixed the problem of America, 1776. Are you going to look for 15 more of your like to start put the horse before the cat and not the cat before the horse, fixing and putting rule of law in place? Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much,
So,
Otumba.
Adamu, I mean, I hope you jotted the question down so that we can take maybe 1 or 2 more, because many people are raising their hands, so that it might be easier that way.
The questions properly. So
Okay.
we can.
So while you're getting pen and paper, because I just want to take at least 2-3 questions so that you can handle them at once. And I have Isioma Ebigwai and Mike Ntodonko. Mike, you get ready after Isioma, please. Isioma, you have the floor. Isioma, you have the floor. What happened? Okay. Mike, can you ask your own question now?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Mike, can you go ask your own question? Go ahead.
Okay. My question is, please, Adamu, I want to know, as you said, that you want Nigeria to transform to productivity. Do you think it's possible to do that with this current constitution
Okay.
that we are having now? Please?
Thank you very much. Question noted. Obio Suji, can you please ask your own question?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adamu or Alaji Adamu. I just want to say that I've been quite impressed. Your presentation has not only been very insightful, but you have also been very pragmatic, giving us, very pragmatic solutions, something we can actually do. However, it begs some questions for me, and it's also following from what Otumba asked you, and this is specifically this. It appears that there's a kind of disconnect, in my opinion, between the views about restructuring or the views about changing the way our country is presently governed over in the north and in the south. I'll tell you this, it's more or less, I would say that you are about the very first person that I've seen, that I've heard speak so passionately about restructuring in this way. Therefore, the question would be, now, how do you think that we can build that critical mass of presence, bridging the divide between North and South, assuring ourselves that we mean well for each other in order to push for a better Nigeria the way you have outlined? That's one. Two is this. I'm also impressed by the graduated restructuring you suggested or you're proposing here. It's quite an interesting one. However, you will agree with me that there are several challenges, and the challenge is this, that hitherto no one could mention any kind of restructuring. Until recently, we heard that the Nigerian police is ready to look at community policing, which is a form of restructuring. However, the specific question is, how do you think we can go about overcoming the respective challenges of convincing the present government and subsequent governments to begin to address some of these little issues so that we can achieve restructuring or whatever they want to call it in no time? Thank you.
Okay, so before you go ahead and answer the question, I want to take another question from Abdullahi Mohammed, please. Abdullahi Mohammed, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening all.
Good evening.
Yeah, good
What
evening.
I want to keep in here is, I know Adamu as my schoolmate during the university years. I know how active a person he is. What I would like to ask him is, how could we make it possible for the young generation to lead Nigeria? Because as long as we have the old minds there, I don't feel we're going to have any progress. So how can we make the young generation of his age and like my age to be the leaders of our country? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So you now have the floor, Adamu.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me start with the question that was asked about looking for the right people that can enthrone rule of law. And then because without rule of law, you cannot have a country. And that's actually the truth, because the country itself is a creation of the law. So when the law is not taking the role in the affairs of the men in the country, then you question whether there is still a country at all. So, but how do we look for the right people to look for the to be able to enthrone this rule of law? And that is why, if you notice in my presentation earlier, I was talking about political participation as actually the panacea to the change we need. And that political participation is not from somebody from a distance, but from us and so many people that are connected to us. That is the only way. People like us that share the same ideology, that believe in the Nigerianness and the greatness of the Nigeria as a country of 200 million consumers, you know, and then producing nearly very nothing, you know. So if we can participate in this political process and try to influence and win the election and then get those things and do the right thing, we will continue to record this kind of problem. Because the current constituted political leaders have established the current mechanical process within the political system that only produce people like them for their certain interests. What about us? But let me tell you something. None of them were sitting behind the fence and pointing fingers before they get these things. You heard the elder statesman said he was at some point jailed because he was protesting for a political change. And almost all of them face certain challenges one way or the other before they could be allowed to do the right thing. You must actively and deliberately want to do the right thing. And you must actively and deliberately want to participate to do the right thing to get things done. So, and that is why wherever I have a talk, I always encourage us, the new generation, to participate in the system. If we get the new generation's participation into the system, we will have not just 50 Adamu, but we will have more than 1 million Adamu, and then this country is going to be fixed permanently. Once we have the right people at the center, you see now we have the same problem again.
The restructuring has struck you again.
Exactly, it has struck me again, you see. So once we have the right people at the center, we will definitely have the right policy, because you cannot have the right system without the right mindset. And even if you have the right mindset, you must have the right skill set to be able to administer this right mindset. And even when you have the right mindset, you must still have tool sets with the skill set to be able to use the necessary tool set to administer the right system. So once we agree in this conference today that from now on, we are all politicians in Nigeria, we are going to convince the right people not to be pessimistic, but to be, in fact, to be incurable optimists about the Nigerian state, and that they will fix it, and they will participate in the political process deliberately, have opinion in every subject and every decision taken by our leaders from today. Then I'm telling you, by 2023, this country is going to see something that it has never seen in the history. And that's exactly what we here need to commit to today. If we do that, we will have answered ourselves collectively the question asked by Otumba. The second thing again is that proposing to, of course, transform Nigeria back to productivity, that with the current constitution, is it possible? Is completely not possible with the current constitution. Because the constitution that concentrated everything at the center is actually not going to allow productivity, especially when the center is being just run by a group of people that are driven by patronage. But there is a solution to this. The constitution is very porous. Nigerian constitution is one of the most open-ended constitution that every lawyer can win every case anyhow. That is why sometimes you see somebody would be jailed for life, and suddenly he will back and then will be given almost more than what he has stolen, you know, because the constitution is actually porous. And people like us that are actually enlightened have studied extensively and understand. Some of us are lawyers, deep level constitutional lawyers that understand how to manipulate this system and then transform it into the right thing to be done. That is why we need to participate. I'm still coming back to the participation angle. We have to participate, because if we do, we are going to get everything done. The porosity of the constitution gives us opportunity to be able to create graduated policies that can transform this country into productivity. Take, for instance, two places, I mentioned them earlier during my presentation, are actually the greatest places. When we pay attention, we are going to put the country back to productivity, and if we don't, we are going to let the country to be consumer driven. Central bank and the central bank and the NMPC. Those two places are actually the key places that this country is not getting the right policies that's supposed to change us either to productivity or the consumer. Central bank is the receiver of the dollar. NMPC is what takes the dollar out. But oil is an international commodity. Why will Nigerian state still continue to sell oil under the table, like oil wells under the table? No matter how transparently you put the oil industry is still an international industry. So why am I going to buy a different price for fuel in Nigeria, different price compared to what is obtainable in the global economy, when it's everything around the supply chain, from the labor to the resources to material to production to consumption, is supposed to be international? But unfortunately in Nigeria, because we want to please the few, we now call it oil subsidy. We create a fuel subsidy, we subsidize for very few, transform huge amount of our budgetary resources in the pocket of few people, and then leave our infrastructure to suffer. And when they ask us, we say we are subsidizing for the poor. And you don't understand who is actually the poor. So you have to liberalize NMPC. You must not necessarily sell it. You can make it like a state-owned enterprise. The same way you have China doing SEOs everywhere, and it's been working. So you can make it like a state-owned enterprise. When you make it a state-owned enterprise, you can trade with it, provided you put the necessary transparency and accountability systems within the operation of NMPC. And then you can now list it on global stock exchange. You don't have to keep NMPC under the pen and paper of the presidency. You have to put it in the market, because NMPC is supposed to go to market to bring money, revenue into the country. So if you liberalize NMPC and make it to be part of global stock exchange, where you receive high amount of dollar, you now can use this dollar to invest in your infrastructure. Because the problem we have in Nigeria is not laziness, it's actually the connectivity infrastructure. Demand sitting in Kano is constantly going to Aba to buy things. Demand sitting in Aba is constantly going to Zamfara to buy things. But to connect and do these things is always a very big problem. And Nigeria itself, as a foundation of the country, is an economic entity, it's not a political entity. We have diverse identity, diverse religion, many things, you know, and you now want them to have one same political setting. It's not likely going to work, but they can economically work together, because the larger the market I have as a Nigerian, the more the incentive I have to stay in Nigeria. If I'm living in Akwa Ibom State and my market is 200 million Nigerians, why do I want to look for another country? Because I want to sell and become richer and bigger. So this is exactly how we need to reconnect the country. We need to build massive infrastructure of connectivity that will bring down inflation naturally and bridge our supply lines. If we succeed in doing that, then we now come back to NMPC and make sure that we did not appoint people that are not risk takers, investors. Because we need somebody in the NMPC that will pay, the central bank, that will pay attention to investing in our infrastructure. Most of the incentives should not go to consumption, should go to infrastructure investment. Build roads, build bridges, build electricity system stations, build telecommunication network, lay high-level power fiber optic cable so that people can connect and transact like the way we are doing today, and then have a very, very, very stable, interactive, and connected environment. When you do that, you will find out that Nigerians will naturally pick their country. So this is actually where the problem is, and these are just simple areas that sometimes is at the prerogative of the man in power, like the president. You can liberalize these things. You discuss with the with National Assembly, especially in this crisis mode. They'll come and sit down. Oil price is flat. If we don't liberalize an NPC, we're in trouble. They will give you the law. That is why taking advantage of this kind of crisis mode will have helped Nigeria to transform back to productivity, even with the current constitution. Then Mr. Obi asks a question. How do you think we can bridge the gap, like especially within the different diverse in the country? We have the Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Christian, Muslims, cross-border. When you see people are thinking that way, you know, it all has to do with frustration. Because I can't go to hospital and then the person treating me is Yoruba, and I will not say that I'm not going to be treated because he's a Yoruba man. I'll die. So it's a problem because people are frustrated. People have no need for one another. They are frustrated. They don't connect. Why? Because the system does not allow them to be able to understand the value of one another. The system is caging them at the rhythm or political leaders. A political leader who wants domination from the side, because let me explain to you something before mentioning that. Nigeria is a stock-broken political system. The larger the stock you have in your own geographic region, the better the chances for you to get the largest share of your pie at the center. So the only way to gather my stockbroker is to sensationalize my relationship with them by telling them that you are not a Muslim, don't even listen to them. You are not from the north, you are not from the south, you are not a Christian, you are a Christian. We are this, God has done this for us, you know, those kind of things. So this is where we have the problem. The problem is stockbroking. Those senior citizens understand exactly what they need to do if they truly want to fix the country. But they cannot do that. Why? Because the system is designed that even ministerial appointment, if you want to get from your region, there is some level of political votes that you are supposed to present before you can be able to sit and discuss and negotiate. So this is where the problem is. So for us to bridge this gap is not to worry about the political side of Nigeria, is to pay attention to the economic side of Nigeria, bridge the supply lines, liberalize the key institutions like NNPC, give complete autonomy to CBN, channel them to invest in the resources, make sure that all the marketing nodes are connected. When I was contesting for the president, I identified about 9 economic zones in Nigeria. In the triangulated format, you can have 3 triangles, you can have energy triangle, you can have the energy triangle in the area of the shorelines that we have from Bayelsa or from Delta State down to Akwa Ibom and even to River State, so cross River State. Then again, you can have the market triangle, which is from the southwestern part of the country, especially Lagos, you know. Then you can also have the production triangle within the hinterland from the southeast up to the north. And we have a very long river that connects us together. All you need is just to drain, to be able to drain this river and allow movement of goods from Atlantic Ocean into the riverland, over River Niger, up to the hinterland. You have solved a lot of goods transporting from the ocean down to the river. And then you expand the port facilities. You can't have port in Lagos only. You have Calabar, you have several places in Akwa Ibom, you have in River State, you have even in Fukados, and even Nembe in Bayelsa State. Why don't we have some port facilities there? Those places are even very close to River Niger. And from River Niger, you can carry goods on top of this water and then take them into the hinterland. And it's almost 8 times cheaper to transport on sea, on water, than on land. So that will naturally bring down inflation because the cost of goods is going to go down significantly. Most of the cost of goods in Nigeria is associated with transportation. If you troubleshoot this system, I had opportunity to read from one McKinsey report. The reason why they don't get the fruits they need in Nigeria, they have to import from South Africa, is because we don't have good infrastructure network that will make them to get into places like Benue State and pick the fruits that they already have in abundance to take it to where they used to manufacture in Ogun State. That's Chi Limited. They will have to import most of them from South Africa. Why? Because of lack of infrastructure. So it's cheaper to import goods from South Africa. Sometimes it's even cheaper to import from China than to import from Kano. You can imagine this kind of confusion. So if we do that, we are going to solve these problems completely. And Nigerians will not have any reason why to ask whether you're Yoruba or Hausa or Igbo. Look at Lagos, it's a cosmopolitan town. Nobody cares about where you come from. Provided we are exchanging value with each other, we can be anything. Like I went to Lagos as a Fulani man who has no experience in Lagos market, but I'm a technical professional in IT. And the first job I got was from nobody, but an Igbo man. The second job I got was from an Akwa Ibom man. The third job was from Yoruba, and I keep getting jobs from different people that doesn't care about my identity or where I come from. All they care about is that this guy can deliver, and I want to give him what I need to give him. So that's exactly how this country can be fixed. Until you connect the markets, you will always have political leaders taking over. Until you bring about economic leaders to take responsibility in shaping the country, you will always be left at the mercy of political leaders, and political leaders are stockbrokers of sensation. They will sensationalize, crack our heads, win power, and abandon us. After 4 years, they come back with sensation again, crack our head, win power, and go back. And we should allow that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
First thing,
I think that is done now. Let me take the second part of that question. I hope while I'm asking this question, that NEPA does not do what they. So if that happens, you might not be able to write them down. So I'm going to take the first question from Ayola. Ayola, yes. Please ask your question. Then Mr.
Maziz, okay. If you don't mind.
And Bello.
Maziz, okay. Maziz, okay. If I may make a suggestion, our time is almost running out now. Yes. We've had a lot of people raising up their hand. Is it possible to ask all of them, because some of them may not necessarily be questions, just for one minute? Ask their questions or whatever they want to say, and then we'll have our guests respond to them if time permits.
Okay, so we have 6 people now, so please no more than this. Ayola, you have the floor.
Honorable Adamu, I want to commend you for the fantastic presentation. We call it WOW presentation. And though I disagree with you, I have some I differ in some of your perspectives, though, which talking from my own experience across Netherlands, Scandinavia, US, and UK. However, the issue of restructuring does not mean, to me, my own perspective, does not mean nepotism. It's just for people to take control of their resources, because at the heart of what we're talking about is this restructuring is resource control. And if we can learn from so many countries, the Scandinavians, the Switzerland, and all, it will be more easier for us to move forward, because most of your ideas are quite fantastic. But for how long are we going to continue this way, taking it gradually? Before we get there, we are already getting to our grave. Don't let us deceive ourselves. I don't deceive myself. I'm very pragmatic sometimes. I contested the last election, as you tried to do, but I was home, contested and everything. And you know the way it is. We don't have a political party. We don't have political leaders. And if you listen attentively to our elder statesman, he said right from the get-go, there was mistrust, between the north, the east, and the south. There was mistrust. And who are these people? We are talking about. They are still talking going back to the old 1963 when we are in the 21st century. I think my question is this: given the fact that a lot of these presentations have been made everywhere and there, how, in the real sense, can we really move forward apart from individual participation in this political terrain? Because we cannot really separate what is happening. I'm saying? They are both connected politically and economically. We can't dissociate political issue from the center of all these activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then I'm bringing in Bello Nagogo. Bello, you have the floor. Bello Nagogo. Okay, Bello Nagogo. Then Honorable Ejiofor Egwuatu. You are on, Honorable Ejiofor Egwuatu.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Please, I'm very grateful to Alhaji Adamu. Adamu, I must commend your very brilliant presentation. I've been a member of the House of Assembly. I've contested other elections too. And I want to agree with you on this issue of participation in democratic processes. It's only when the ant that eats the vegetable must have to live within the vegetable. And so it is only when we participate in these processes that we can bring about the right people that will make the right changes. But I have a problem. The problem is from the north now. You appear very, very, very sensitive to this issue. How many people in the north are well experienced like this? How many people are well focused like this? How many people can stand with you on this from the north? Because if you come to the National Assembly and drop any issue on restructuring, definitely a lot of votes will go north or south and not on ideas. So there is need for you and every other person who is as enlightened as you are to educate the masses in the north. It is very important that they understand who should hold positions and why such people should hold positions, and not a matter of somebody coming to share whatever mega thing and the person is allowed to hold positions. I believe so much that we have the leaders we deserve. If we feel we don't have credible leaders, we must fight hard, do everything possible to get credible leaders. Once we allow people to lead us without knowing who they are and what they want to offer, they will always lead us astray. So what is it that you can do about the North, especially the youth in the North? I don't want to use any of those terms that they used to describe youths in the North. I did my youth service in Kano. I can tell you that a lot of people do a lot of things to win an election, and you see a swarm of people. In the next 10 minutes, there are buses filled up with people without any idea of what they are there to do. They just come in there and do anything whatsoever to put people in power. What are you doing to educate such people and get them out of that place? We are doing quite a lot here in the South. We are doing quite a lot about it. And so, what really do you think you will do or you are doing about it?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Egwatu. Please, can I have a very simple plea here. When you are given the floor to ask your question, please, we are overrunning with time. Can you make it very short and snappy? I'm bringing in Ezeluche. Ezeluche, please ask your question. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just have two issues to bring to the knowledge of Honorable Adamu. And one is the issue of restructuring has been collapsed into just one question: who is a Nigerian? Because if you address this issue, if you answer this issue, the whole essence of restructuring is taken care of. If we agree that a Nigerian is anybody, any Nigerian, wherever he is a Nigerian, is entitled to the same benefits as all Nigerians, I don't think there will be much, the clamor for restructuring will almost die away. So do you agree that if we agree on that, quests like the ones being made by the current Buhari administration, that any Fulani from wherever in West Africa is a Nigerian, there have been comments of that nature. That is what causes the problem. If we say that any Nigerian from Sokoto, from Akwa Ibom, from Osun State, anywhere Nigeria is a Nigerian, we won't have any problem and can benefit from the system. So once we have that, there will be no issues. But when you have a very porous definition of Nigerian, of who a Nigerian is, then you have the problem. People will always clamor for people will always make mistakes as to what it means to restructure. And the second issue, which nobody has addressed, I mean, when we talk about Nigerian problems, even just across Africa, we think it's only internal. The problem of Nigeria emanates even from outside our shores, from the colonial masters. The only country in Africa that has been able to avoid these colonial issues is Rwanda, because they fought a war, a very bloody war, and then Ethiopia because it has remained virtually uncolonized. But Nigeria, Ghana, or you name it, we are suffering the vestiges of the colonial masters. The colonialists wanted to impose some people to rule over the system when they were going, and they made sure that the people that they put in charge will always cut to their benefits. That is why those who even rule us in this country, when they take actions, you get shocked, because no true-born Nigerian will do some of these things they do. But because they are not so even hearkening to the needs of Nigerians, but rather to the colonial overlords, that's why we have this problem. So can we address this issue of how to fence off these colonial overlords, because they still have a crippling effect on our history? So those are the two issues I want to raise. One, can we agree that a Nigerian is any Nigerian and not just any person who strays into the country's territories? And then two, how do we address the issue of the influence of colonial overlords? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So once more, I am making this point again. Please make it 30 seconds. Reverend Canon Ikem, you have the floor. Please make it snappy.
Thank you very much. I I want to start by commending the contribution of Adamu, because I want to be very clear as directed. I want to find out what is his opinion on what are the things I feel that put the post area of Kano into trouble. Much as I give it to him, he has a lot of ideas about what to do with Nigerian state. I don't quite agree with him that the North is not benefiting from this system. When the person of no known personality like the deposed emir said clearly, looking forward to a time where the quota system in Nigeria should be brought down, which are part of the structures that were put in place by the colonial masters, as Eze has just pointed out. A situation whereby you come to the table in Nigeria and you are coming from advantage position because of the part of Nigeria you come from. Whether you like it or not, it's very clear to all of us that some are more Nigerian than others in this nation. And things will continue that way. I feel that for me, issues of restructuring to be seriously looked into. You can't have Nigeria run the way it is going. You can't get far with it. Having said that, I just wanted to get his opinion on what Salisu said, that Nigeria of today, there are people who are more Nigerian than others, and you can't continue look forward to a situation whereby a time will come when you're not identified or given any position or slot in Nigeria because of where you come from, but on the basis of quality and what you have to offer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And the last question this evening is going to be from Comrade Obinna Ogwebu. Obinna, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I hope I can be heard.
You're live and clear.
Sorry, I'm coming into this program late. In fact, I'm still on the road. I just parked by the roadside to be able to speak. I want to commend I just want to make observation and commend all our speakers that have graced this forum to be able to, because some of them have very strong opinions on some of the issues we are discussing. But I, for one, is an observation, and I want us to try to live here with certain set mindset. We need to give each other a chance in this country. Mm-hmm. The point is that we cannot get up from where we are unless we extend that hand of fellowship and try to drag me out. Let me disappoint you. I know there's a lot of distrust as I've been stated by the elder statesman, but sincerely, we need to try and carry everybody along. Let me give Mr. Adekunle an opportunity. And who can do all these things? We're all the next, that generation actually that should drive the processes of Nigeria. Let us try to reach out through this forum to one another and see. I believe in the Nigerian project. Why do I say so? Countries that have broken into bits and pieces in this manner of whatever fragmentation have never gotten through successfully with it. I mean, on a scale of 1:10. So we can do better. We are feared. We are respected globally, even by America, by the strength of the Nigerian spirit. I would want us to keep discussing. I would want us to try to engage one another. My best friend in this country today is a Kano boy. You know, I don't have any regrets about it. Not because of anything, but because of true friendship. We can continue on that pedestal. I want us sincerely to make progress from this forum. We need justice. There's no doubt about that. Justice for everybody. But then we must start electing good leaders. People that we can call to question. To stop electing people and allowing ragamuffins to keep driving the process of governance in Nigeria. Even in my own local government, it is the case. We will complain. Election time comes in, we don't even support that person that we know is bringing capacity. Thank you. I want to encourage us to continue on this platform. It's a very, very good initiative, and Nigeria can be saved from this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Obinna. And I would give now the floor to Honorable Adamu to basically react to all these questions. I hope you wrote most of them down. If that is the case, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mazi. I will start with Honorable Ayola's suggestions of idea of restructuring, like the way we have in Scandinavia, and also like the economic and political system cannot be separated; they will have to remain together. Yes, I quite agree with you that restructuring is something that is needed. I think most of my statements here has been the restructuring. I just do not believe in a one-shoot process. I believe in a gradual, hybridized and process of getting the country properly restructured, because I also believe it doesn't work for many people. So, but the Scandinavian model is fantastic, but it will have to take time. And Scandinavia, if you notice their history from Vikings, down to the way they come from, they have been restructuring from the beginning, from the larger empire, which is called Scandinavia, down to many other smaller countries. And within these countries also, they now begin to decentralize much more further. So they have taken a history over a long period of time before they achieved what they have achieved. And they understood that there must be pragmatic interest management before you can be able to achieve these things. And they did that, it worked. So it can quite work, but of course you have to really take a very pragmatic approach to the current process, especially with the heavy politicization and the mistrust created around the word restructuring. So something has to be done in a graduated way to be able to get the country restructured. That's actually what I believe. And I agree with you quite all right, that you can't separate the politics from the economics part of the country. But this also emanates from our evolution of the political development in Nigeria. Like if you look at our political party systems, we don't even have ideology governing the way they work. Now, what is it? Who is me as a member of APC? Who is you as a member of PDP? What is the ideology that attracted me towards APC? Is it fighting corruption or fixing the economy? Can this thing rightly be said about ideology that is going to bond me and my family into a political party? So it's a problem. We have to create the concept of right and wrong within our system. No, the concept of right and left, like the way we have in the advanced countries, because that's the only way you can evolve a purely naturalized democracy. And you have to separate people that believe in justice and equality from the people that believed in order and stability, like the Republicans and the Democrats. So the Republicans believed in order and stability. That's why whenever they come to power, you will see them pushing for order and a more stable economy and more stable operating environment. While if you have the Democrats coming into power, you will see them focusing about equality, justice, like gay rights and stuff like that. So we must have a reason why we are associated with a certain political party. Now, but in Nigeria, the political systems are not this way. So we now have an idea. Do we create a separate system away from the new system, or do we go into the existing system and dilute it? So this is also one of the approach that can only be done when we have this kind of conference most regularly, discuss and look at the pros and cons and see which is the best way forward for political participation. But at the center of it all should be economic liberalization and the market opening for the Nigerian public. Once you do that, you solve the identity problem that we have in this country. And the other question here is about what do we do to educate the North? I campaigned for like a year and a half. I started campaigning, I think, in 2017, and then rounded up somewhere in September 2018 when the price of the phone is expensive, and I couldn't go and use my business money to buy the phone. But I can tell you this, I have learned something about the North. I had been away for a longer time because I had been living in Lagos since 2006, and I hardly come to my homestead to spend more than 2 weeks, throughout this period. So, but during the campaign, I was able to go back into the North, and I came to understand that the North, where I am today, is in more dire need of political change that is going to enable them to be the best they are than even any other part of this country, after my movement throughout the country, but did not have no one that want to listen to them at their own level. You will see somebody will go to Cambridge, somebody will go to Harvard and graduate because he's the North, he's bearing the banner of being a Northerner. He will not begin to talk on behalf of larger amount of people that hardly even finished secondary school. So they can't understand him. So there's issue of trust between the followers and the leadership. So at the end of the day, the only thing that makes the followers to vote leaders is hardly about ideology. It's mostly about what I can get during a day of election. And people voted for Buhari overwhelmingly in northern part of Nigeria because of one thing. They believe he's the last cat, and they believe he's sincere, and they've been following him all through to make sure that they have him in the system to fix the country. It means that they are tired. Voting Buhari is a protest against the established northern leaders. This is something that you want to look at it. You need to look at it from that angle. If you check the history of Buhari's election from 2003, none of these political elites were backing him because they don't accept his ideology at all. They have to follow him now because of circumstances, situational circumstances, not really because they actually believed in him, most of them. But the people of the North voted for him out of protest for a complete change. Of course, whether disappointed or not disappointed, the issue is someone have to be trusted and someone have to understand the problem that is facing the people, connect with them, and then that is the only way they will listen to you, understand you, and accept your own viewpoints in the way you do things. So what I do is, I've joined so many northern political organizations, and anywhere I have opportunity, I talk. Go to media, talk, encourage people to come and sit together, join them in different meetings and discuss, and I also promote my own personal life story. As someone who is coming from an Almajiri background, you know, and was able to go and then study a little bit of IT, went to Lagos and established a business that is now having 5 businesses under 5 companies under that business, and then building successful technology platform and addressing very high-tech service delivery in the market. Despite the fact that I scavenge in the street, move to the rivers, and then go to scavenge in the bush, sell raptors and aluminium in the market, go and cut bush to go and sell, like every other street child in the north, then it is possible for each and every person. But it should not only be by following politicians, it is also possible by believing in yourself. So they need to understand this, and that is actually the principal thing that I and so many people within my team are constantly doing. We are promoting ourselves as them, as part of them, passes through the same systems with them, not belonging to the elite class, you know, but have graduated to join that team through sheer effort, commitment, dedication, and focus. They can also do it. So they are listening and they are understanding. And that is the only way you can allow the North to buy not just restructuring, but anything. Because it's an environment that is designed to be loyal to the person they trust. So once they trust one person, they will follow that person without question. So that's exactly what we are doing. We are doing a whole lot of education. If you see me even on social media, talking about the physical environment I've been moving, even on social media, I made my life practically public, simply because these people have to understand that it is possible. It's not about becoming an SA or to join government work before you can succeed or to make sure that you have control of government. No, it's also about you. So we are doing a lot about that, and God willing is going to yield a lot of result. Then another question about is who is a Nigerian? That there are some people, like the Reverend asked, that there are some people that are actually more Nigerian than others. Of course, it will always be the case if we continue to listen to political stockbrokers, people that have no plan, people that have no design, no understanding of a model statecraft that is going to push this country to productivity. They will always come and sensationalize us. And once they get the power, the people that are against or for certain group of people will naturally be favored against those that have lost the election. It's like a war, because the Nigerian election is being contested as a war because we don't have guiding ideology. There is no humanity. There is always winning power. So until you have leaders that are driven by conscience, by belief in the values of humanity and the impossibility, you know, of dealing with human spirit, you cannot be able to get the right system that is going to be shaped in the right way. So, and the only way to do that is to allow new political participants into the game, into the place. Then from there, you can be able to produce the finest of the leaders that will want to first consider humanity, then second, use his mindset to be able to have the right team members to channel Nigeria back to productivity. And of course, the influence of colonialism is also very, very significant. But to treat colonial masters like people that you may want to, I believe the only way to treat colonial masters is to be very pragmatic. The entire global system, international system is divided into hawkish and the dovish group. You have people that are dovish, that like peace before they can invest. You have people that are hawkish, that they invest on instability. When there is crisis, they make more money. So it depends on what we want to attract as a Nigeria. Because the colonial masters either come to you to use force to steal your resources or to entice your greed and steal your resources. But they created a system, a law that is governing their own operational process or procedure. What you need to do is to understand their law and position yourself, like Nigeria, for instance, as a dovish inviter. We invite the dovish to come and invest in Nigeria. Of course, we can't deny them abundant resources in Nigeria, but we will also take our share. How do we take our share? What is our priorities, for instance? We already know that in technology or development or capacity, the Western world or the colonial masters have much more than we have. So fighting them is a less, value to us than accommodating them. Accommodating them is a more value for us. But the problem is, what are we bringing on the table when we call them? Now, if you are interacting with, for instance, countries that are governed by the UK, let's say South Korea, for instance, which is under American and the UK, or Hong Kong, which is under UK, or maybe even the United Kingdom, what are you bringing on the table as Nigeria? Like now, if you look at most of our designers, we import them from UK and France. But those designers are meant from low-income countries like Bangladesh and this Tamil Tiger country, Sri Lanka. Now, we are also part of Francophones. Why can't you set up these production machines in Nigeria? What if we create a policy framework that makes sure that all the designers that we import in this country, especially major designers that we import in this country, we have the factory in Nigeria. Okay, we will buy from you, the brand is still your own, the money still goes to you, but we want to produce for you. Instead of you to take it to Bangladesh and then import it back to Nigeria, or to China and then import it back to Nigeria, we also have the workforce. In fact, Nigeria, we have the finest demography. 78% of our population are below, within the working group. They are youthful population. So why can't you come and invest in Nigeria? Bring down your talent, bring down your dollars, invest and hire people in Nigeria. If you are paying $100 per person, we are going to give you 2 people for that same $100, so that we can have more people developing technical skills. That is the way to liberate yourself from colonial masters. That is simply what Deng Xiaoping of China did to them. That's simply what even South Korea did to them. That's what Thailand did to them. That's what even Singapore did. What you need to do is simple. We know you need something from us, but we can give you labor. Yes, we agree it's slavery, but come and do it in our country. Give us the labor. We can begin to build that labor. If we know how to stitch and make a socks, or maybe a trouser, or a shirt, we can gradually begin to make top level clothes like designer bags and designer shoes and designer belts from within that production zone. Before you realize it, we graduate into making high level perfume till we go to precision equipment like cars and so many things from within Nigeria. If we do that, you will end up dictating their foreign policy objectives, like the way China is doing today with the Western world. China today define where dollar moves. Because if China stopped collecting dollar from the United States, you know the consequences of the United States economy. China single-handedly liberated the United States from economic downturn of the 2008 by buying more of dollar in treasury bills to stabilize the economy. While US do quantitative easing, China is also buying the excess of these dollars. And that's what stabilizes US and brings them back away from the recession. Why? Because they employ pragmatic foreign policy objective by trade and trade only as the measure. And that trade is exchange of value for labor. So that's what I believe the only way to liberate ourselves is to have more economic power and more production capacity in terms of skills and capacity. If we do that, the colonial masters will end up coming to us to be able to sustain their economy that they are doing today with China. And I believe that's the only right way to liberate ourselves from colonial masters. I think I must have answered all the questions. Thank you very much.
Daniel Elumba, do you have anything to add?
It's been a very... Sorry, hang on.
Why are you echo from your side? I have echo from your side, Dan.
1 second, please. Hello?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yes, sorry. It's been a very enlightening evening. This is what today's discussion is what our conference is all about, to bridge the information gap between different parts of Nigeria. And I'm sure I'm going away today having learned something from the elder statesman, Alhaji Tanko Kasai, and our fellow young man, Adamu Garba. Thank you very much for gracing our occasion. Hopefully, we will continue to have this discussion next week. Anyway, I think Mazezeke will do justice to that. But we are trying to develop this platform, like many people have suggested, to be a meeting point between people from all sectors of Nigeria, all age groups, 90 years. I'm surprised to learn today that the elder statesman is 94 years, sharing platform with us. So thank you all for coming in, and we hope to see you again next week.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you once more. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Next Friday, we are working on, and we will be, the login details. For those of you who have the login details, it will be the same. We are working on to bring in Pa Ayo Adebanjo. Many of you know he is one of those who push for restructuring as well, and is an eminent Yoruba leader. And in the same vein, next week, we will be having Chief Nyanwodo joining us from Enugu. So make a date with us next week. We will keep having this conversation. The conversation is that we must listen to one another. You know, again, I've learned honestly a lot from the elder statesman, like Daniel said, Tanko Yakasai, and the same thing with Adamu Garba. Adamu, honestly, thank you. I was reading up about you, and I was so impressed to see that even you, you were in, the term Amajiri that we use between the age of 4 and 8, that your dad forced you to become an Amajiri and your mom didn't. Even that contest and that contrast, within a family, a mom saying no and a dad saying no, you have to do it. Then bridging that gap, coming to a middle point where your mom and your dad agreed, okay, you have to go within that 4 years. Afterwards, you go to a normal conventional school. And, bearing in mind with that background, my question, as the final question and the concluding thought will be, what do you think, because you have that background, what do you think is the break or the missing link why the Amajiri system appears not to work? And as we all see today, I mean, it's not, all of us have social media. We see this thing that you hear, Amajiri is being deported from Kaduna, Amajiri is being deported back from Nasarawa State. Suddenly we hear in Lagos, Dangote truck ferrying people down to Lagos. In the south, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Enugu, even River State, and people being found in trucks. Now, as part of your concluding thought, what do you think is happening, and how can the federal government quickly nip this in the bud before it escalates?
Yeah, the problem of the Almajiri system is actually like a traditional system of local education or Islamic education. I don't even want to call it Islamic education. is like a local system of learning, even before the advent of Islam. So when Islam came, it was now adapted as part of the system of the way people can learn. Not just Quran, but they learn science, they learn art, they learn mathematics, they learn astrology, and so many things within the Al-Majri system. So, but because it was institutionalized as the Northern education system then, where almost most of these elder statements, including our last elder statement who spoke, you heard that he said he's not educated in a formal way, but you can see very clear eloquence in the way he talked, simply because he had that kind of education. So when the colonial masters came, they tried to push for the education system that they came with, which is the modern education system we have, but it was vehemently rejected by the northern emirs because they believe their system is far better than that old system. So of course, you know the way colonial masters did during that period, killed most of the emirs that disagree with them, some of them dethroned them, and then brought more compliant emirs and then asked them to adapt a new system. And part of the agreement or the structure is that the Al-Majri must not be funded by the state coffers anymore, that the Al-Majri must fend for themselves. But they, since the British government is controlling that area under the Lugard, they will not have any budget for Al-Majri but the new education system. So that's exactly how the process started. So then the community was responsible for feeding and supporting the Al-Majri. And no Al-Majri is expected to travel from his own locality to another state to go and learn until he has graduated and become more matured, and the knowledge he needs is not immediately available within that environment. That's when he has to travel. But usually it's within a local environment, like I did my own, very close to my parents' house. I go and then come back. That's the normal way of Al-Majranchi. Eventually, when we now began to have a lot of state control and centralization, the same centralization that we are hammering that we need the restructuring, everything now comes back to the center. And the center's resources now become under pressure. There is demand from the public to deliver public goods in terms of education and healthcare, but the center could not be able to do that. The center have limited budget. These Al-Majri children were, according to them, learning, and they don't have budget no more, and they have to survive. And the parents in those localities have no those primary schools that their children will attend. So the only viable way for these children to get education is to move to places where you have Al-Majri institutions. It's cheaper, and they don't have to worry about boarding. They only need to send the child. To the ordinary parents in the village, what they think deep inside their heart is that they are doing God's work. So, and you know what, when ideology and godliness is associated with something, it becomes like a puritanical drive, that I am doing something, I'm surrendering my child to the will of God. So it became deeply, deeply ideological. So successive leaders in the North supposed to do something, find a way and reform this system by bringing modern education and Al-Majri system in one. But unfortunately, because of the resource pressure, they decided to concentrate only on the limited resource they have to power only those children that have accepted that model and condemn the Al-Majri children to obscurity. And you know that these are also Nigerian children. The fact that their parents made a mistake of sending them out does not mean that we should throw them out like a bag of rubbish. And that's what happened. So suddenly, when we have this COVID-19, an opportunity was presented for them to go back to their state. Some governors were even suggesting that we should ban the system altogether. Now, the person that is inside Al-Majri will naturally see any governor or any leader who is saying that you should ban him as an enemy. Because to him, you either did not educate him properly on the need for him to change, or you did not provide an alternative system for which he can use to practice. You can't pack 7.5 million children and say they should go home. Which school are they going to attend to? Which family are they going to go back to when they have been living in the city or some places all their lives, knowing different kind of children? It's a complete problem that is going to come back later if you decided to throw it that way. And that is why my campaign on this Al-Majranchi issue, if you notice, I have been very active online. I even call myself the grandson of Al-Majri. It's because we have to reform the system. The same education budget that goes to all other institutional settings should also go to this kind of Al-Majri, established, authenticated, trusted Al-Majri system. And another thing again is that most of the teachers, those Al-Majris, they trust their teachers more than even their parents. But you cannot see anywhere you have a dialogue between the Almajiri Malams and the state leaders about how to reform the system. You can only hear a leader who is sitting in one location issuing order to people that do not even believe in him. And that is where you have problem. So there's a disconnect between the leaders and the actual practitioners of the Almajiri system. And the only way the Almajiris will want to listen to the leaders is when the leaders understand them and come to their level and talk to them and make them see the need of why change is actually needed. When you do that, you can begin to have their buy-in into modernization. It's not something that can happen just like rocket science. It's something that you have to take deliberate effort to try to bring them on board. They must see reason why they should do that. Somebody will tell you that because I go to modern school, I have many cars, I have houses, I have job to do, I have this, I have that. The Almajiri man is begging on the street, he has nothing, and he is angry. To him, lack of wealth is actually a better wealth for him. The way he lives his life like somebody who is just going to heaven straight. In fact, wealth is a problem. So if you see you with the wealth, you will just be assuming that you are just fashioned to go and suffer in the heaven when you die, while he is going to the heaven because he has less. So there is an ideological disconnect between the leaders. So until we now make deliberate effort to reform Almajiris and try to mainstream their malams, mainstream the practice, and then try to drag them into modernity, into the modern system, you cannot get it right at all. And that's why I'm happy you brought the correlation in my own family between my mom and my dad. My mom is an ardent pusher for reform. She needs new things. So then she has seen so many children going to conventional school. She liked the way they dress. She liked it when they have their bag, and then go to school and come back. She liked it when they hold pen and paper to write. But my dad wants me to hold a wooden, we call it allo, and then be writing on it. So she said she wants her child to be a modern person. So that's why there is this disconnect. He said he has to go to Almajiri school, learn Quran very well, then I can allow him to go to modern school. And that concession was struck, and then it made me now today. So we have to find a way to accept both the two opinions before the same way my dad was able to agree with my mom, and my mom was able to agree with my dad, and then eventually they create a hybrid Almajiri and a modern person in me. So that's what is supposed to be done. So that's actually my comment on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Once more, I mean, it's, we can stay all evening here listening to this narrative. It is, I think it's a very fine place to leave it now. And I'll once more thank every one of you that have joined us today. Next week is another date, the same time, 7 o'clock Nigerian time. That is 19 o'clock plus 1 GMT. Next week, as I said before, we will be having Chief Nyanwodo and Pa Ayo Adebanjo. Once more, thank you and God bless. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.